Big dog, you supposed to be our number one.
Come on now.
And you're playing like a bum.
Yeah, bet you better catch that
I
ball.
bet you better start doing your job.
Bills wide receiver Keon Coleman has had a rough sophomore season, following up a very disappointing rookie year. The Buffalo Bills drafted Keon Coleman with the 33rd overall pick in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft. That is the first pick of the second round and was the Bills' first draft selection in 2024. Keon Coleman was the 8th receiver taken in that draft class, and he was selected to a team that desperately needed a wide receiver after the departure of wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who was traded to the Houston Texans, and the Bills also lost wide receiver Gabe Davis in free agency to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The 6'3" wide receiver out of Florida State was ready to make a name for himself, which got off to a pretty good start when he made the media laugh in his opening press conference.
Guess where I got this from, though? That I'm saying you gotta guess. You gonna be wrong, though, but guess. Nah. Macy's. What you mean?
Oh, they're great. They're fire.
But when it comes to on-the-field production, just 2 seasons into his young NFL career, Coleman has been nothing short of disappointing. Twice, Keon Coleman has essentially been benched as a healthy inactive and a healthy scratch for games because he was late to meetings and not showing up and not taking his professional job responsibly. You have former Bills personnel directors saying to cut him. Cam Newton is on his show calling him a bum.
Big dog, you supposed to be our number one.
Come on now.
And you're playing like a bum.
And even his teammate Deion Dawkins made it known that pats on the back are over and he needs to grow up.
Pats on the back are over with, and it's time for him to grow up, and he knows it.
And with Keon Coleman being a disappointment so far to this point, the lack of talent at wide receiver is glaring more than ever on that Bills offense. That's why the Bills were linked in trade rumors back at the trade deadline for Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle and Saints wide receiver Chris Olave, despite the investment the Bills put into Keon Coleman in the draft just under 2 years ago. So how did Keon Coleman go from someone who's supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver on a Super Bowl contending team in the Buffalo Bills become a guy who's a healthy inactive on game days? That's what we'll be talking about in today's video. Please make sure to like and subscribe. We're rocking the Bills hat today. Appreciate you for tuning into the KAJ Football channel, the best place for casual football fans like you and I to discuss the NFL. And with all that being said, let's dive into the video. Before becoming one of the biggest NFL jokes and victims of a Cam Newton rant,
In his first interview, and he sat down and was like, "Yeah, I love cookies," and he had the whole all that.
Keon Coleman spent 3 years in college, 2 seasons at Michigan State, and his final year in 2023 was at Florida State. As a freshman, he didn't really play much at Michigan State. He played in a few games, caught 7 passes for 50 yards and 1 touchdown, but that's really all he had to show for his first year in college football. Now, I would also like to mention, just for shits and giggles, that Keon Coleman also played basketball his freshman year at Michigan State, so he was a double athlete his freshman year. Just thought I'd at least mention that. Coleman's sophomore season was much better in 2022, catching 58 passes for 798 yards while catching 7 touchdowns as well. This led Keon Coleman to transferring to Florida State. Why Florida State over other schools that could have been a possibly better fit for him and better for his development? Keon Coleman said he went to Florida State because he felt the roster had a chance to make a run for the college football playoffs with players like Jared Verse, quarterback Jordan Travis, running back Trey Benson, and wide receiver Johnny Wilson. In addition to that, Keon Coleman also said he just wanted to be a part of the culture that they have been building over the past few years. He said out of high school they were recruiting him pretty hard, they had a great quarterback, a great receiver room, and most of all he loved the coaching staff. And they had 90% of the team coming back that season, so they had a chance to do something very special and he wanted to be a part of that. And boy, was he right. Florida State had an awesome season in 2023. They went undefeated in the regular season and won an ACC championship, but they were snubbed out of the playoffs because of a devastating injury to quarterback Jordan Travis. As for the individual Keon Coleman and his success, he caught 11 touchdowns on 50 catches for 658 yards, making some pretty incredible catches.
Man rush. Seam shot. Coleman.
His time at Florida State started off on a really high note when he caught 3 touchdowns for 122 yards on 9 catches in a win over LSU. But these heights were never really reached or met again by Coleman for the rest of the season. In 12 games, Keon Coleman broke 70 yards 3 times and fell under the 25-yard mark 5 times, which left questions about him as a consistent wide receiver. You could see the highs, you could see the traits of a good receiver, but the lack of consistency and the lack of playmaking ability on a week-to-week basis was concerning. The highs were really high, but the lows were really low. Keon Coleman displayed his aggressive ball skills. No, not those type of aggressive ball skills. A guy with his size who was that athletic and had that good ball skills up in the air, those are some pretty good skill sets to have. And a lot of this played into why he declared for the NFL draft in his 3rd college season. Now going into the draft, there is a wide variety of opinions on where Keon Coleman should be drafted. Some believed he was a 1st round pick, mainly due to his size and physical abilities and traits as opposed to his college production. Others thought Keon Coleman was a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick because of his lack of production in college, because of his lack of speed, route running abilities, and his lack of ability to create separation and the consistency, college production. So there is a wide variety of where Keon Coleman should be picked. 1st round, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Everyone had different opinions about where he should be selected.
Keon Coleman, Florida State.
The most divisive player in the class, I would argue.
A lot of the things that you see Coleman doing is jump balls. But that's not going to work when the athlete you're playing against may be more athletic and better, stronger, taller, and faster than you. So now that's where technique comes in. What somebody will do, though, is draft him high because no one wants to pass up that what if, that potential.
He ended up going with the 1st overall pick in the 2nd round, 33rd overall to the Buffalo Bills, becoming the 8th wide receiver taken that draft. Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, and Xavier Legette were the 7 wide receivers drafted ahead of him. In hindsight 2020, but I bet the Buffalo Bills right now probably regret not drafting Ladd McConkey instead of Keon Coleman. McConkey was drafted with the draft pick right behind Keon Coleman, and the Bills passed up on him, and I bet they really wish they would have taken him instead right now. Of course, though, the Bills did not have the privilege of hindsight, and Keon Coleman was their draft pick, and he was on his way to Buffalo. Coleman's first exposure to the Buffalo media and fans was a memorable one for sure. A press conference where his personality was on full display. He was cracking jokes about where he got his coat and that he wanted to get some cookies.
Guess where I got this from, though? I'm saying you gotta guess. You're gonna be wrong, though, but guess.
What town is it?
Nah. Macy's. What you mean? They be on sale on the rack, all the colors. I shop like my mom. I get my coats in the summertime. You gotta shop a season or 2 before, just in case, and they be cheaper. Who we starting with? Oh, we could go. Oh, my bad. Hold up. Y'all can hear me? This on or this off? All right, bro. I'm just making sure. I'm hoping you ain't trying to set me up. Who we got going first?
Oh, they're great. They're fire.
But let's be real. Who wouldn't want some damn cookies? Now, this information right now may seem irrelevant to the video, but it is. We'll just have to dive into why it's relevant later on. Keon Coleman's personality was a funny one and a very likable one, and was entertaining for fans and the media, especially when clips like this were coming out during the draft process after they selected him in interviews.
What do you do outside of football?
Chill at the house, golf, bowl a little bit.
You golf?
I ain't no golf. I'm Tiger. Wish he could. I'm not Tiger Woods now. I wish I could putt and do all that.
But the Bills drafted him to be a good NFL football player and a good wide receiver for their franchise quarterback Josh Allen, not to be a comedian. So fast forwarding to training camp, Keon Coleman's first camp was as promising as Bills fans could have hoped. Reporters could not stop talking about what Keon Coleman was putting out there and showcasing, from his ability to win on the boundary with size and athleticism to more nuanced spatial awareness than most people gave him credit for coming out of college. Keon Coleman looked to be learning things very quickly and getting onto a good rhythm and pace and chemistry with his quarterback Josh Allen, which is going to be pivotal for their success in 2024. However, though, once the season came around, Keon Coleman's training camp flashes were simply just that, training camp flashes. For a guy who was drafted to be the Bills' #1 wide receiver, and for the opportunity to be there as well as the expectation, year 1 for Coleman was a letdown. He finished his rookie campaign with 556 yards on 29 catches and 4 touchdowns. Coleman only had 1 game over 100 receiving yards, which came versus the Tennessee Titans. So does that really count? It's the Titans who ended up with the first overall pick. I don't really know. And Keon Coleman only had one other game with 70 receiving yards or more. Was there some good moments from Coleman his rookie year? Absolutely, there were some good moments. There are some flashes that you saw from college, making some tough catches, being physical, displaying his size and athleticism. But those were simply just flashes. His season as a whole as a rookie was not one to remember. Now, it is important to note that Keon Coleman did miss 4 games with a wrist injury, so that probably impacted his ability to get a few more yards, catches, touchdowns, whatever it may be. Thought I'd at least mention that, but even then, in those 4 games, he was not going to get 500 additional yards to get to 1,000 receiving yards. He was not going to catch 50 extra passes to get to 70 catches. I think regardless whether or not he played in those 4 games or not, the rookie season still would have been a disappointment. Considering rookie wide receivers around the NFL were making big plays and names for themselves in 2024, like Malik Neighbors for the Giants, Brian Thomas for the Jaguars, and Ladd McConkey for the Chargers, there was a disappointment for Bills fans, the Bills organization, I'm sure, but Keon Coleman himself said he was disappointed with his rookie season. Coleman was asked to recap his rookie season, and he was just straight up blunt and honest, saying, "You know exactly what I see? That shit's trash. You gotta be better, simple as that. You got to be more efficient here. You got to get out of this break. You got to stack your DB. You got to give Josh more room to throw the ball. You got to catch this one. You got to make a block. You got to give extra efforts on touchdown blocks, so if James Cook breaks it, he's up there on the sideline." Just different things like that, calling out everything you're doing wrong to make it right. So yeah, it was widely known. Fans, organization, and Keon Coleman himself said his rookie season was disappointing, and he said it looked like shit. So going into 2025, there was an expectation that Coleman would improve from year 1 to year 2 and make a jump and make that leap to becoming their #1 wide receiver. And the opportunity was definitely still there for Keon Coleman. They didn't really make any big moves or splash moves in the offseason that would suggest that he would not be their #1 wide receiver. They didn't really add any big names in the draft or free agency at wide receiver. So the opportunity was there for him to be in that wide receiver 1 role. Come week 1 of the 2025 NFL season, Keon Coleman had a huge breakout game and a huge comeback win versus the Baltimore Ravens. Coleman went over 100 yards on 8 catches versus the Ravens and also caught a touchdown, playing a huge part as to why the Ravens blew such a massive lead and comeback to the Buffalo Bills. It was the perfect way to start off his second season, a big game to help pull off a comeback win. Was their wide receiver 1 finally here? No, he was not. Similar to his first year at Florida State, he got off to a fast start and a super high, but those heights have still yet to be reached again. Since week 1, Keon Coleman has not had a game over 50 receiving yards. The Bills were subject to a bunch of trade rumors and talks regarding wide receivers because the offense is depleted of talent and weapons for Josh Allen. Jalen Waddle was a name that was being tossed around as a possible wide receiver for the Bills via a trade. Same with Chris Olave from the New Orleans Saints. The Bills offense needed some firepower. They needed another offensive playmaker to help Josh Allen and James Cook because the wide receivers and the tight ends were not and are not cutting it right now. But the Bills were not able to come to terms with anyone to acquire a playmaker via a trade before the trade deadline. So the Bills are just going to run out the rest of the 2025 season with Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir as their main wide receivers. So riding out with Keon Coleman as wide receiver 1 lasted about 2 weeks, because 2 weeks after the trade deadline, the Bills basically benched him, making him a healthy inactive versus the Buccaneers, and then on Thursday Night Football versus the Texans. Although the benching wasn't necessarily due to Keon Coleman's on-the-field play and production, but it was more so because of the off-the-field stuff and what was going on behind the scenes. Keon Coleman was late to team meetings, which led to his benching, and this wasn't the first time either. He was benched his rookie season in the first quarter in a game versus the Jaguars for being late, and the same thing with their Week 5 matchup versus the Patriots. He was benched on the opening drive. Thankfully, Keon Coleman understood the move, realized he had to be a better professional. It didn't appear to be any hard feelings about it, and Sean McDermott, the Bills head coach, was hoping that this move would help him learn how to be a better professional in the NFL. Teammate and team captain Deion Dawkins spoke on this, saying, "Nobody's perfect, but in this league, we need guys to come on. And Keon knows, right? Now he's in the hot seat and he needs to come on and show up for us. Pats on the back are over with, and it's time for him to grow up, and he knows it."
I already spoke to him. When I spoke to Keon before in this game, and I told him, I said, "Bro, look, don't even worry about it. Everybody goes through a different journey, right? let's just say that this is the last time, and let's just move forward. And he said, I'm with you. That's all and we need, right? Like, nobody's perfect, but in this league, we need guys to come on. And Keon knows, right? Now he's in the hot seat, and he needs to come on and show up for us. Pats on the back are over with, and it's time for him to grow up, and he knows it. And as an older player on the team, we hold everybody accountable, and we shoot straight. We don't sugarcoat it, and the words were said to him, and he took it well. And we'll see how it goes in this week. But like I said in the beginning of the season, I'm in Keon's corner, man. Like, this league is hard. Being on time is hard. Being great is hard. Pushing for greatness is hard. So we got his back, but the time is now.
Pats on the back are over with. Remember that little press conference interview I brought up earlier that seemed irrelevant to the video regarding cookies and Macy's coats? Well, Cam Newton had a lot to say about Keon Coleman missing meetings and needing to grow up when he was reacting to the clip of Deion Dawkins talking about Keon Coleman.
I bet you won't be late again.
Facts.
Huh? Yeah. So let that be the message that you understand, Keon Coleman. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. I bet you need to know that folks ain't going to keep being patient with you. That playful person that took the Buffalo City by storm in his first interview, and he sat down and was like, yeah, I love cookies, and he had the whole, all that was all cool, but we give that grace to young players. Oh, big dog, you supposed to be our number one.
Come on now.
And you're playing like a bum.
Yeah, bet you better catch that ball.
Bet you better start doing your job.
That clip of Cam Newton has gone viral. It's bad enough to be having the struggles Keon Coleman is having, but then to have a former NFL player, let alone a guy who's won the MVP and has played in a Super Bowl, and have as big as a name as Cam Newton does, make a statement like that, surely cannot help the confidence of Keon Coleman either. And that edit being all over social media surely isn't helping his reputation either, and how people who watch the NFL view him. The Bills haven't given up on Keon Coleman yet. Reports came out saying the Bills view him as someone they need, and they need him to be better and to be a professional. There are some rumors and speculation that they're going to cut him. You had a former Bills personnel director saying that they need to cut Keon Coleman. It doesn't necessarily sound like he was ever in danger of actually being cut by the Bills. But again, pats on the back are over with. They need him to step up and be a guy who they can rely on consistently. Coaching staff to see a guy who was going through the motions, going through a rough patch, to catch a touchdown, very pivotal to their win over the Steelers. Recently, there have been positive reports about Keon Coleman and his maturity and how he's handling the situation, that he's taking the meetings more serious, he's been on time, and being more professional when it comes to just the little details behind the scenes. Sometimes a hard time is what people need to find success, and maybe this is what Keon Coleman needed, just a little push and a little bit of a rough patch to find himself in the NFL. And I'm not trying to bash on the guy. The talent is there, the size is there, the athleticism is there. He just needs to kind of put everything together and find a way to be more consistent. But for right now, until he does figure it all out and until he does get everything together, cookies and Cam Newton calling him a bum on a TikTok is how NFL fans and the audience who watches the sport is going to be viewing him.
Yeah, I love cookies.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, help support the channel. Comment anything down below if you have anything to comment. I'm Kaj. I'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Peace.